Lanka IOC, an overseas venture of Indian Oil Corporation, is Sri Lanka's #1 listed energy company. Lanka IOC's strong corporate governance and ethics has made it a force functioning with transparency, integrity, and accountability. With Sri Lanka propelling itself on the road to development and prosperity, Lanka IOC has a major role as an integrated energy company, playing a national role in oil security. Our resilience and foresight will help improve the Sri Lankan lives and foster change in the transport industry of today and tomorrow. We believe that our company should be responsible to the society in which it works and the environment in which it operates. Lanka IOC, bringing energy to life.
When the internet is powered by fiber, it's nothing like those days. Connections without delays or interruptions. Quite unlike those days. The pinnacle of picture quality. An ultra-fast superpower. It's nothing quite like those days. Sri Lanka's first, fastest and widest premium fiber network. SLT Mobitel Fiber, the fiber of the nation.
ගුරුත්වය අභිබවන්නට ඇති හැකියාවෙන්ම ක්‍රීඩකයෙකු නිර්වචනය කළ නොහැකි එය සබඳතාවයක් නොනවතින රිද්මයක් ජීවිතයටත් ක්‍රීඩාවටත් පණ දෙන නිරන්තර හදගැස්මක්
දශක ගණනාවක උත්සාහයක ප්‍රතිඵලය මිනිසා සහ තාක්ෂණය කියන දෙක අතර හවුල්කාරකම හැම සීමාවක්ම අභිබවන අසමසම සැබදියාවක් SLT Mobitel එකම එක සැබදියාව
Enjoy the infinite possibilities of the freedom of space, inspired by the breathtaking beauty of our land. Sri Lanka's finest finished, largest sized porcelain tile collection. Majestica, Lanka tiles, fine living, redefined.
Sanitary ware is often judged by looks alone. But we have a different perspective. Our designs are defined by 3 guiding philosophies. The needs of contemporary architecture, the environmental challenges of today, and ergonomics. Coloma, beautiful outside and inside.
Industries run on wheels. Each and every barrier that comes between your tires and wheels can cause inefficiencies. Customization of your wheel solutions can be challenging. Long supply lead times could lead to lost opportunities. Rigid payment terms can be a hindrance in optimizing efficiency. The absence of on-premise expertise in your wheel solutions could limit you in delivering a superior product to your customer. A continuous focus on on-time delivery of materials to meet delivery targets is an added task to your operations. Large minimum order quantities can result in excessive stocks and cash tie-ups, leading to operational inefficiencies and product deficiencies. That is why having a local wheel solutions partner is essential. OTR Wheel Engineering Lanka takes pride in providing local support for the tire manufacturers and aftermarket in Sri Lanka. As the only internationally renowned local supplier of wheels, rims and components, we help our customers reduce inventory levels and lead times significantly. We provide expert service and customizable wheel solutions by offering technical assistance in developing superior tire or wheel assemblies at your factory premises. We guarantee safety, durability, and performance by ensuring that our wheels and rims are in compliance with global industry standards. We offer flexible minimum order quantities, payment terms, and island-wide delivery to ensure the highest level of customer service. Our commitment in supporting our customers is what drives us to deliver proven success time and time again. OTR Wheel Engineering Lanka, best-in-class off-the-road wheel solutions provider.
1832. A national legacy begins. An ever-growing bank with the nation at its heart. Climbing from strength to strength with its people. Taking a journey through centuries to become NSB. The journey of trust through generations. The journey of a proud nation. The journey of a family takes yet another step into tomorrow. Connecting people differently. Creating tomorrow, today. NSB.
තාත්තේ ක්‍රිකට් ගාමුද?
දැන් බෑ පුතේ.
අනේ අම්මේ. අයියෝ අවුරුදු සෙල්ලම් කරන්න. අයියෝ මගේ බෝලේ දැන්.
මුහුණ අප්සෙට් කරගෙන ක්‍රිකට් ගහන්න බෑ නේද? ගහමුද මැච් එක?
ගහමු.
මැච් එක ගහන්න කලින් පිච් එක හදන්න ඕනේ.
TT plenty. Gede.
මේ LED ගියොත් අවුට් ආ.
වහල කැච් ඔට්ටුනේ.
කෝ බැස්මන් ලෑස්තිද?
ඔය ගේන්නේ.
හෝ. මොකද මෙතන වෙන්නේ?
එන්න අම්පයර් කෙනෙක් හොයෝ හිටියේ.
There's nothing you can't do. Choose to live every moment of your life to its fullest every day. Let SoftLogic Life take care of the rest.
Live life, love life with the best health insurance in Sri Lanka. SoftLogic Life. Imagine if you could maintain a firm hold of your operations from anywhere. Complete with the choice to find the perfect balance between work and freedom. As a leader, the significance of your role is unparalleled. That's why we make sure no matter where you are, your financial freedom is guaranteed. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. Imagine business anywhere.
an energized ceremonial welcome accorded to our chief guest and other distinguished company that have been ushered into this auditorium. We shall proceed with the inaugural elements of our morning with another ceremonial aspect, namely the lighting of the lamp, the oil lamp. And we would like to invite some in the audience to participate in the lighting thereof.
So for the symbolic illumination, we'd like to invite our chief guest this morning, His Excellency Daniel Bood, the Acting High Commissioner of Canada to Sri Lanka. So His Excellency Daniel Bood will be accompanied by former Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Karujaya Surya, the President of CMA Sri Lanka, Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala, Mr. A.N. Raman, the Advisory Council Member to CMA Sri Lanka, the President of the South Asian Federation of Accountants, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, Mr. Ananda Vehalla, the former Council Member for CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Bashir Ismail, also a former Council Member, as well as Mr. J.M.U.B. Jayasekara, Council Member for CMA.
And to other Council Members such as Mr. Ruchira Pereira, Mr. Manil Jayasinghe, Mr. J.P.R. Karunaratne, and also Council Member Mr. S.P. Gajendra. Professor Harindra Karyavasam, Dr. Sunita Dilivera, former Director Education and Examinations. Then to Aruna Jayavikrama, founder member of CMA, Mr. Mahendra Jayasekara, Chairman of the CMA Cost and Management Accounting Standards Committee, and Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, President of OPA. So we have also observed that Mr. Hemaka Amarasuriya has been co-opted, as also Mr. Deva Rodrigo and Professor Mangala Fonseca. And Mr. Someswaran. Okay. And so, the lamp duly illumined, we shall now proceed with the national anthem of Sri Lanka, and followed thereafter by the theme song, there is one, the theme song of this organization and institution, CMA Sri Lanka. So anthem first and then CMA song.
Sri Lanka Mata, Appa Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata, Sundara Sitarini, Surani Ati Sobhamana Lanka.
CMA Sri Lankawe Pramuka Terimai Navatakshnika Danumin Piripunva Lovadinamin Jayakanuva Karapiya Nagana Sada Kalamana Karana Ganakadikari Vishwaniketanayai
CMA Sri Lankaவில் முதலிடம் பெறுதே அதிதொழில்நுட்பங்கள் கிடைக்கும் வென்றீர்கள் உலகத்தை வெற்றி பாதையில் தினமும் செல்வோம் முகமையாளர்களும் கணக்காளர்களும் உருவாகும் மத்தியஸ்தலம்
CMA, the best in Sri Lanka, adopting international standards with technological advancement, the management accounting profession globally. Recognized is full of excellence on the path to victory.
තිරසර වටිනාකම් දීපනය කරමින් තිරසර වටිනාකම් දීපනය කරමින් ශක්තියෙන් ගුණෙන් අගනා ප්‍රගතිමලයෙහි දරනා විශ්වයට ඔබින දිනුරයට වටින පුරවැසියන් බිහි කරනා කළමනා කරන කනකාධිකාරි විශ්වනිකේතනයයි කළමනා කරන කනකාධිකාරි විශ්වනිකේතනයයි CMA.
We invite everyone to be comfortably seated, even as we invite your continued attention on screen. There, we will now provide you the opportunity to review history.
The Society of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, CMA, was set up in 1999 with the technical assistance of CMA Canada, now CPA Canada, and was based on the guidelines of the international accounting bodies, the International Federation of Accountants, IFAC, which is the world body for accountants and the management accounting bodies of the UK, USA, and the South Asian region. The Society of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka was launched on the 3rd of June 2000, on which date the Institute celebrates its Founders' Day. The first patron members of CMA Sri Lanka. There were 8 council members in the first governing council of the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka. Founder members are those who received membership at the launch of CMA. The first CMA graduation was held in 2003. There were 8 advisory council members in the first advisory council of CMA. The Honorable Minister of Trade, Commerce, Consumer Affairs and Marketing Development, Honorable Dr. Banthuragunu Wardana, tabled the bill for the incorporation of CMA Sri Lanka in the Parliament on the 18th of March 2009. The bill was approved by the Parliament, and this created history in the accounting world, where Sri Lanka, after 50 years after the incorporation of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, a new professional management accounting body was incorporated and given government recognition. CMA was incorporated by Act of Parliament No. 23 of 2009 in April 2009 as the National Professional Management Accounting Institution in Sri Lanka. CMA became a member of SAFA, the South Asian Federation of Accountants, and now serves on governing body of SAFA since January 2010 and joins the fraternity of professional accounting bodies in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Nepal. As a Sri Lankan professional body, CMA has now attained global recognition, providing a qualification recognized both locally and internationally. CMA received associate membership of the International Federation of Accountants (IFAC) in 2010 and was elevated to full membership on the 7th of November 2014. IFAC is the global organization for the accountancy profession dedicated to serving the public interest by strengthening the profession and contributing to the development of strong international economies. IFAC is comprised of 180 members and associates in 135 countries and jurisdictions, representing over 3 million accountants in public practice, education, government service, industry and commerce. CMA is also a member of the Confederation of Asian and Pacific Accountants, CAPA, the professional accounting organization for the Asian and Pacific region. The CMA National Management Accounting Conference, conducted annually, is the key event in the CMA annual calendar. It was inaugurated in the year 2002 and has been continuing for 20 years. Each conference is inspired by a relevant and innovative theme. The sessions address topics that are aligned with the theme and are of practical relevance. In 2015 July, Ms. Olivia Kirtley, former president of the International Federation of Accountants, visited CMA Sri Lanka's head office. CMA organized the first CMA Excellence in Integrated Reporting Awards in 2015. The purpose of the Excellence in IR Awards was to promote Sri Lankan companies, especially those listed, state institutions and unlisted companies, to undertake integrated reporting, which will be of immense benefit to investors and stakeholders. The awards were presented by the chief guest, His Excellency Maithripala Sirisena, former president of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, Ms. Olivia Kirtley, former president of the International Federation of Accountants, Her Excellency Shelley Whiting, former High Commissioner for Canada in Sri Lanka, and the president of the CMA Sri Lanka, Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala. As per the cabinet approval in 2014, in the year 2016, government granted 25 million rupees through the Ministry of Trade as part of funding for the purchase of an office building at Visakha Private Road. CMA is governed by a governing council of 8 members comprising an eminent panel of academics and professionals in Sri Lanka. Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala, who celebrated ICAD in the field of accounting, is the founder president and continues to serve CMA as its president. Professor Vatavala is the past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, past president of the South Asian Federation of Accountants, founder president of AAT Sri Lanka, and former chairman of the People's Bank, and was on the board of Investment of Sri Lanka BOI. Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala received the National Honours Sri Lanka Sikamani, conferred for distinguished services of a general nature by the President of Sri Lanka on the 19th of August 2019. In 2018, he was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by CMA Sri Lanka for the recognition of outstanding leadership and contribution to the accountancy profession. And in 2020, the Faculty of Business and Law, Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia, appointed Professor Vatavala as the adjunct professor. Recently, Professor Vatavala received the Apex Award from Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, the President of Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. CMA has signed MOUs with all state universities and other professional bodies to provide an opportunity for undergraduates and other professional students to obtain CMA professional qualification. In the year 2018, CMA signed a member pathway agreement with CPA Australia at the World Congress of Accountants, Sydney, Australia. CMA has signed training partner agreements with more than 100 companies. They provide practical training to CMA students according to the guidelines provided by CMA. The practical experience that they can obtain whilst studying or after completing the exam has given them much flexibility to obtain a professional qualification in management accounting. CMA has launched a special program, Certified Hospitality Finance and Management Accountant CHFMA. The specialized professional qualification in hospitality finance and management accounting, which is jointly offered by CMA and Sri Lanka Institute of Tourism and Hospitality Management. In 2017, CMA commenced the first batch of Certified Hospitality Finance Management Accounting classes at Sri Lanka Hotel School premises. CMA Sri Lanka launched the Cost and Management Accounting Standard Board in the year 2019. With the incorporation of the CMA Sri Lanka, CMA has the responsibility of the issue of management accounting standards as per its objectives of implementing and enforce cost and management accounting standards, records and measurement both in the government, public and private sector institutions. Every year, CMA provides scholarships to deserving students covering all segments of Sri Lankan society in commemoration of its Founders' Day. In 2014, CMA received cabinet approval for the recognition of CMA qualification on par with other professional accounting bodies operating in Sri Lanka. CMA was the first Sri Lankan professional accounting body to commence computer-based testing in association with Pearson VUE USA in April 2018 for its foundation level. The revision of the syllabus has taken into account the need for good communication and leadership qualities provided by the Speechcraft program conducted by the Toastmasters. Former President of the International Federation of Accountants, Ms. Rachel Grimes, visited Sri Lanka in July 2018 as the chief guest for CMA Global Management Conference, and it further strengthened the accounting profession in Sri Lanka. CMA held its 15th graduation ceremony under the distinguished patronage of Australian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, His Excellency Bryce Hutchison, in December 2018 at Kingsbury Balmoral Ballroom. CMA hosted the CMA National Management Accounting Conference 2019 and Commonwealth Accountants Conference on Sustainable Development Goals Agenda 2030, the role of professional accountants, and the Integrated Reporting Awards 2019 to recognize and honor Sri Lankan companies including public quoted companies, private and state-owned enterprises, small and medium enterprises. Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, CMA Sri Lanka, celebrated its 20th anniversary and conducted its 16th graduation ceremony in December 2019 at the Lotus Hall, BMICH, Colombo, under the distinguished patronage of the Canadian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, His Excellency David Mackinnon. In January 2020, Dr. Inki Ju, President of the International Federation of Accountants, visited Sri Lanka to deliver the keynote address at the event on financial and cost and management accounting for the development of SMEs, which was organized by CMA Sri Lanka. During the last few years, 3 IFAC presidents have visited Sri Lanka, bringing credit to the accounting profession in Sri Lanka. The Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, cost management and cost control would be 2 areas in which CMA will be closely associated to bring about efficiency and productivity, prevent wastage and promote value creation.
So we've had a quick sweep of history and more focus to come. But with regard to the here and now, it's good to be able to see you all gathered here. It has not been often in the past nearly 3 years where we've been able to have a face-to-face, as they say, an exchange of ideas and encouragement and camaraderie within the community. That has not been possible, but here we are, and that's good. And hopefully we will be able to make the most of the opportunity provided here. I'm saying this with the view of including those unseen. For in fact, we have people linked in remotely who are also with us. So this, in a sense, has an international flavor. More of that a little later, right?
Yes, of course. But our theme this year, as we start off the proceedings with this inaugural, is crisis.
Crisis. Not a very comforting word, is it? Short one, but it has some pain with it. And crises, in the plural application, makes it even worse. And there doesn't seem to be any place on the planet that is exempt, certainly not Sri Lanka. So, crisis.
That's true, but CMA is choosing to focus on the opportunity within the crisis and on how we can rebuild. Now, as Arun mentioned, thoughts and ideas for this will percolate within the proceedings to come tomorrow as well. But when crisis comes and when it hits, things tend to be shaken to their foundations. And that can be an opportunity to test those foundations, to let go of the old that no longer serves the greater good, and to move forward into the new with fresh impetus. But that means that that foundation is critical. And CMA, as you've heard and seen, has been working diligently to establish that foundation for the management accounting professionals of Sri Lanka, forming a base of knowledge, skills, resources that they will draw on in the forthcoming day.
Indeed, in the forthcoming day, the nitty-gritty of that which was referred to, really moving forward rather than reviewing and looking backward, although that which is past has been important and a community has now been created. How do we know? Well, that's what the subject of the audio-visual presentation was. It's about how that community has now engaged with the community of Lanka and also brought benefit and also been recognized all over the place. And of course, the author of all of this, or the one who has been thinking about this, is the one you know very well, Professor Lakshman R. Watawala, who in a sense has already been introduced in the substance of that presentation. We'll invite you to listen to him as he speaks from this lectern, the introductory remarks and certainly words of welcome, and then more to come a little later with speeches or presentations on stage.
Good morning to all of you, and let me welcome you to the CMA National Management Accounting Conference 22. So today we are very happy to have a very distinguished patronage, and we have our chief guest, the Acting High Commissioner for Canada in Sri Lanka, Daniel Bood. So we are very happy to welcome you, because I think from what you've seen, you have been the real mover and shaker in making CMA Sri Lanka. Then of course we have our very distinguished and Honorable Karu Jayasuriya, the former Speaker of Parliament, one who has been really supporting CMA throughout, and we very much value your presence this morning at this inauguration. We also have the distinguished presence of Mr. A.N. Raman, who is one of our advisory council members and one of the gurus and experts in the cost and management accounting profession, and been involved with us right from the start. So let me welcome you. And of course, our founder advisory council member, Mr. Hemaka Amarasuriya, because at that time we were setting up the industrial advisory committee, and Mr. Hemaka Amarasuriya was the chairman of Singer Sri Lanka, an organization which he built and grew. So we are very happy to have with him, but also he is one of our own colleagues, and I'm very happy because we were all together in the same old firm called Turk & Youngs. You know, that's the place where we were really mentored to become professional chartered accountants. So you can see the products that they have produced, and of course those who have been behind it. And today too we feel that the same sort of products should be produced by the leading firms and other mentors who are handling this post. Then of course we have very many others. We have our distinguished our council members. Then we have our past council members and also advisory council members. One of them who are present here, Mr. Devasari Rodrigo. I think we deeply appreciate your presence here today, a former chairman of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, and also the senior partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers. So we have a very big array. Only thing is I am unable to take them individually, but let me welcome all of you and all our members and participants at this event. Although I am saying so many good things, our topic doesn't look that sound. You know, it says crisis and opportunity to rebuild Sri Lanka. If you really look at the reasons why they have failed, is because the government do not have any professional accountants. The Transparency International have done a survey, and they have found that countries that have more accountants have less corruption. Those who have few accountants or no accountants are full of corruption. But we are in a very, very much more worse situation. We are in a bankrupt situation. So you can see that no professional accountants have been involved in the government sector, and the government should now open their eyes to see that they recruit professional accountants. I am saying this because it is not the parliamentarians or the cabinet that they have to blame, because the cabinet of ministers approved that in 2014 that CMA, a body that was set up by support of Canada, a body that was a member of the International Federation of Accountants, where we obtained the membership of the South Asian Federation of Accountants, the International Federation of Accountants. I don't think any of our even local universities are having this international recognition, but we got the global recognition. And the cabinet said, treat this as same on par with all the other professional accounting bodies, and for government vacancies, immediately put it down that they can be recruited. But the bureaucracy in this country has killed us. The bureaucracy of this country has made this country bankrupt. They took 7 years. I had to chase behind them. 7 years to put it and get it gazetted. So you can see that during these 7 years, what would have happened? The accountants, the professional accountants that we are producing, the government could not recruit. They do not realize that they are making very big mistakes. Cabinet of Ministers. So today you can see the Cabinet of Ministers can make any decision, but the bureaucracy can kill them. And today that's what has happened. So everyone is blaming them, but they don't know the unhidden bureaucracy. Public service of 1.6 million. Today we are all paying taxes. Every day taxes are going up. The new budget will come, they'll put some more taxes. But that is not going to clear the situation. As professional accountants, we know that you have to prepare a viable proposition, a method of governance, accountability, no corruption, efficiency, productivity. That is what cost and management accounting is. We had the financial accountants, we had the auditors. Now we are having management accountants because management is missing in the governance of this country. No management. People call it mismanagement. But now we have set up the management accountants. Not only the managerial knowledge, accounting knowledge, you count the rupees and cents. Cut all the costs. Cut all the wastages. See that there is efficiency. See that there is productivity. Prices are going up. Earlier I thought it was due to maybe the depreciation of the currency. But today, every day it is going up. Not by few cents and rupees, double, treble prices. The drugs are going up. So who is controlling this? If we had the proper accountants or if they come to us, we can advise them how this can be done. But they think that they can do everything. No records. Basic thing of even our Companies Act does not have that. A company should maintain the basic records, the cost accounting records, the financial account. They said they maintain some books of account. That's not the way. They must now change themselves. They must know how our economy is working. SME companies, no accounts, banks are giving loans. They say people are preparing fudged accounts. We don't want that to happen. Let them keep the accounts. How are the banks giving the money? They say, bring your house. You mortgage it, I'll give you the money. That's the easiest way of banking. But that's not the way. I think we have to now look at this crisis situation and put Sri Lanka on a sound footing. So that's what we are really going to discuss. I don't want to tell too much of CMA Sri Lanka. It is already there, but I'm very happy that the acting High Commissioner, His Excellency Daniel Bood, is here because you realize the need. You see, when I went and saw the minister at that time, Honorable Kingsley Vikramaratne, I knew that he could not give me any money because there are so many bottlenecks. In fact, you saw that I was getting an award from the current Excellency the President. When I set up the AAT, I invited him to come to inaugurate the AAT. So he came, then he told me, I will give you some money, I'll give you some seed capital. He called his secretary and said, give him the seed capital. But of course, he had a good intention, but they could not carry it out because of this bureaucracy that I'm talking of. Even sometime later, I met him and he said, I gave you seed capital, but I didn't want to tell him that I never got a cent, but I had to find the money. But we are able to do that. That's what the private sector is. Today, to do a government job, you need so much of money, taxpayers' money, ultimately going waste. Recently, we signed a MOU with one of the oldest universities, or the first university, 150 years. So I was having a chat with the Vice Chancellor. I told him, what is this you are doing? You are such a well-established university. You can do so many things on your own. What are you talking about? There is some agency called the UGC. They are controlling us. We can't do anything. You see, today we have come to a situation, government will not be able to give money to anyone. If you allow that university to function on its own, they will be able to solve the problems in this country. Because they are being treated the same way as a new university. No, 150 years, I just can't imagine. Maybe one of the oldest universities in this whole Asian region. Give them the autonomy. That's what we need. Otherwise, we can't do it. Today, we are a non-profit making institution. Government helps us, but with no interference, we don't go to them. We are self-funding. We find our own money. We also find our excess money in deposits and use it for development. So that's how things has to be in this crisis situation. There's nothing else that can do. Government has to change this policy. Public-private partnership. They are all saying that we are selling our land, all these things. I was chairman of the board of investment. You have to bring the investment. You have to bring not investment to put buildings. You have to build investments to put industry and export industries. That's what we need. All this corruption happened because of this other project. But if you are an export industry, you will set it up, you will put your money, you will earn the foreign exchange and bring it. That's what the government must do. So as accountants, we have not only contributed to the private sector, but we have helped the public sector. Now there is one session on SOEs. In fact, I manage state corporations. Unfortunately, I have no place to tell what I have done, but I converted all these loss-making institutions into profit-making institutions. At the Board of Investment, we set up the 200 government factories, which is now helping the government to earn the foreign exchange. Look at what we did. So these people, they do not know, they must have a love. What is a professional accountant? He has a public interest. That is what we have to keep in mind. We are all serving the public. Public interest. Do you think any of these people who are there are thinking of this public interest? But we as professionals, not only public interest, in integrity, honesty, all these things are embedded in a professional. So these are some of the important things. I don't want to take too much of time because we are really on a very tight time target, because 10:30 on the dot, we have a keynote address on digital technology to transform economy and business. And this will be given by Mr. Girish Ramachandran. Now, we have got him. He is the president of the Tata Computer Services. You see, that is one of the largest technology companies in this, I suppose, in the world. Maybe spread over so many countries, maybe 500,000 employees. So that's what we need today in Sri Lanka. Accounting, technology, which will take us to the next area. So we have got him, so we have to keep. Then we are also having the president of the International Federation of Accountants. I think he is also one of the speakers. Unfortunately, they have not been able to come, but they will speak online. And today the technology has really changed us. I must tell you that CMA Sri Lanka is today surviving because of technology. Everyone told us with the COVID-19, you are finished. You will have to close down. But we took the challenge. We went to technology. We changed everything. Our education, our examinations. You just heard what we are doing on the examinations. Then all our systems, procedures, people who said they cannot use technology, they all fell in line and they achieved it. So we can do that. Go to the villages, turn everything into technology. We will be the next education hub in this country. Otherwise, we should change everything. But do it. Government can't do it. Government is broke, no money. Government must tell the private sector, come forward. We give you all the support. You go ahead and do this. That's how we did the 200 government factory. It was not the government who put it up, but we gave all the incentives. We gave all the facilities. Today, some of the leading companies like Mars and Brandix were set up at that time. We gave them all the facilities, and then they developed, and today they are the largest foreign exchange earner in this country. So thank you very much. I think I have so many things to say, but time is running out, and I'm sure that we will be able to catch up by 10:30, that we can finish. And today there is a very most important thing, the history of our CMA. And I'm very thankful to Professor Mangala Fonseca, who has really done an excellent job in preparing this document, and he will be able to explain to you more in detail. It is really a service to the nation, because what we are doing is not to myself or to anyone else, but to the nation of this country, because what we have achieved, what we have built is for the public interest, not for the personal interest, public interest. So please keep this in mind, and if you work in this fashion, not only the private sector, but the government sector must follow us, because I started this without any money. Today we are in this bankrupt situation, so if they give this country to the professional accountants, we can build it and take it forward. Thank you.
Frank and forthright remarks and observations, yes, indeed. And we do appreciate that the value that has been brought to bear has been underscored in those remarks by the founder, chairman, or president rather.
Yes, thank you, Professor Vatavala, for those thoughts, especially the idea that there remains a lot of work to be done that needs to be grounded in reality and an openness to change with real understanding of the principles behind it. And we're pleased to be able to invite now to address the gathering one who has a long and distinguished track record of doing that work and who is now president of SAFA as well as being vice president of CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara.
Good morning to all of you. Our chief guest this morning, His Excellency Daniel Bood, Acting High Commissioner, Canada to Sri Lanka. Honorable Karu Jayasuriya, former Speaker of Parliament. Guest of honor, Mr. Alan Johnson, President IFAC, who will be joining with us virtually. Mr. Ian Raman, past President of SAFA. Professor Mangala Fonseca, keynote speaker, Mr. Grish Ramchandran, President TCS, Asia Pacific, who also will be joining with us virtually. Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala, Founder President, members of the Council, Advisory Council members, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored and delighted to be with you this morning to participate in the opening of this remarkable National Management Accounting Conference on Crisis and Opportunity to Rebuild Sri Lanka and the launching of History Book of CMA. I am sure that the eminent speakers will talk about the conference theme and the author of the book will elaborate on the journey of CMA in detail. In my remarks, I'll focus on my own observation on CMA, the founder of Institute, Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala, and few points applicable to our economy, rather our conference theme. As you have already heard, the setting up of the Society of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka in 1999 is an important landmark symbolizing a beginning of a new era for the accountancy profession in our country. This status was further strengthened with the incorporation of CMA by an Act of Parliament in 2009. The history of CMA Sri Lanka is very close to my heart, and it is with great delight I, as one of the founder members of the Institute, witnessed the steady growth and many achievements of CMA with local and regional and global recognition and becoming a full member of IFAC, CAPA, and SAFA. There was an ever-increasing demand for the management accounting qualification beyond imagination. Over time, it grows by leaps and bounds, and today, the CMA is a role model for any educational institution in Sri Lanka. During the past 23 years, there have been many people and organizations who have given us excellent support, guidance, and advice. There were also a few who really guided the CMA to its current standing, and among them, more importantly, we had sedate, calm, tireless, and always national-minded strategist, Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala, highly recognized and well-respected personality. He not only has a vision and the passion to realize it, but also the courage and energy to make things happen. I congratulate Professor Vatawala and those who have supported him to establish the CMA on their foresight, and thank all those who have committed and continue to commit so much time, energy and expertise to build in CMA into the capable and respected organization that is today. It is in their honor that we have decided to release a publication which you will witness shortly. I also wish to mention that I had the opportunity of becoming the president of South Asian Federation of Accountants, representing CMA for the first time, where Professor Vatawala was one of the signatories to the formation of SAFA way back in 1984. And he was the first vice president and became the president in 1985, representing CA Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the latest South Asia Economic Focus and the Sri Lanka Development Update, Sri Lanka's real GDP is expected to fall by 9.2% in 2022 and a further 4.2% in 2023. The growth outlook is subject to high uncertainty and will depend on the progress in fiscal consolidation, debt restructuring, and growth-enhancing structural reforms. Additionally, resources will be needed in 2023 and beyond to close the external financing gap. Poverty is projected to remain about 25% in the next few years. In that context, the theme of the conference, Crisis and Opportunity to Rebuild Sri Lanka, is both timely and relevant, and I must congratulate the Chairman Conference Committee and the team for selecting such an excellent theme for deliberations. The profession of accountancy would undoubtedly be at the center stage and play a lead role in guiding the business entities and the policymakers. I'm confident that our future accountants will not only think about accountancy as a rewarding profession, but will be persuaded to see the strategic importance of the profession to nation building, the excitement of working in different type of business environment. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish the CMA and the conference all success. Thank you to all.
Thank you too, Mr. Ennayaka Bandara. We appreciate the range and scope that you covered in your presentation, and we certainly wish you very well in your current role as President of the South Asian Federation of Accountants. And now, the resonance of that organization continues. We have Mr. Raman now, who will address this audience as of interest. He's in the Advisory Council of CMA, Sri Lanka, and was a past president of SAFA, Mr. A.N. Raman.
His Excellency Mr. Daniel Booth, Mr. Karu Jayasuriya, the former speaker, my good friend Professor Lakshman Vatawala, the president, founder president of the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, Hennayaka Bandara, current president of SAFA, other esteemed colleagues and ladies and gentlemen, wish you all a very good morning. It's a great day for me from various angles, but considering the paucity of time and the need for clearing the space to listen to the keynote speaker, Mr. Girish Ramachandran, I would like to cut it short by making only 3 observations. So before I make those 3 observations, I am one among you whose heart was swelling with pride on seeing the journey through this video presentation, the miles covered so far. When you keep climbing a mountain with all sincerity and you don't look back, but after making several strides and climbing several thousands of feet, just out of interest, if you turn back and look, that is the point where you feel the magnanimity of the task completed. In fact, I had the same feeling today. What a great journey the CMA Sri Lanka has made, and I am indeed very proud that Professor Lakshman Vatawala has been associating me for the last 30 years. I am in particular today extremely proud that I met Mr. Karuju Jaisuriya once again, because I became a member of this institute conferred by Professor Lakshman and team, and I received that certificate from the hands of Honorable ex-Speaker Mr. Karuju Jaisuriya himself a few years back. So it's a great day for me to meet him again on this wonderful day. Before I close my speech, as I promised you, only 3 observations. The first observation is my friendship with Professor Lakshman Vatawala and the opportunity given by him to work for this institute and the cost and management accounting profession in Sri Lanka is at least 30 years old. It's a great journey, and every time he has been involving me in many of the steps, I always felt that it's a big homecoming for me, and I have always treated the visit to this country and working with all of you as a very great opportunity. It's really a great moment for me. The second observation I am also noting today, and even the earlier occasions, in Professor Vatawala, I don't see just a professional. What a great nationalist and a passionate leader, accounting leader, who thinks and speaks and breathes always for the sake of nation. He is a role model for all of us. So if we work on the lines what he said, that think for the nation, and at every moment of our professional career, we connect ourselves to the national interest, I am sure any crisis would be averted. We would be overcoming the current crisis, and in future also, no crisis would ever engulf us. That is how we should be passionate and nationalistic in our approach. To me, today I found him to be a very great role model of how a professional accountant should also have the national interest at heart. Thanks, Professor, for being such a great nationalist leader. The third and the final observation is, I am extremely proud of this institute's initiative of creating this Integrated Reporting Excellence Awards. For the simple reason today, value creation is not about only the balance sheet and profit and loss account. Value creation is all about how you improve the societal welfare, how you improve your environmental healthiness, how you improve our people's welfare, how the consumer interests are protected. Everywhere the value creation takes place. And the accountants today or the future accountants should be at their best in not only creating value for shareholders, they also need to create value for the stakeholders and all the segments of the society, just now I said. So creating a reporting award for that, according to me, is yet another visionary milestone created by Professor Lakshman Vatawala, which was resonating in many of the participants with whom we interacted the last 2 to 3 days while going through the integrated reporting applicants. It's a great visionary move, Professor, and I'm sure with these sort of steps and you firing on all cylinders and creating the required energy, burst of energy now for the rocket to go beyond the gravitational pull, I am sure that the professional accountants of our nation, Sri Lanka, would certainly do their best and help the country in coming out of the current crisis and be one of the strongest nations in the world. Thank you for this opportunity provided. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much, Mr. Raman. Yes, and you've obviously been very conscious of the passage of time and the constraints that we are working under. So, in the interest of our nation, what think you of interest?
Well, if it's in monetary terms, I'd think accrual, perhaps?
Perhaps, yes, perhaps. But this is not about that.
Well, not only that. And we'll find out more from the compiler and author of the book, Dr. Mangala Fonseca, who is senior professor and KPMG endowed professor in the Department of Accounting of the University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. With over 35 years of academic contribution to the subjects of management accounting, quantitative methods, research, and writing, he is the author of several acclaimed publications in these areas and topics. So we welcome him now, Professor Dr. Mangala Fonseca.
Good morning to all of you. His Excellency Daniel Bood, Acting High Commissioner for Canada in Sri Lanka, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, President SAFA, Professor Lakshmanar Vatavala, and members of the Governing Council, CMA Sri Lanka, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. On this important occasion of the launch of In the Interest of the Nation to mark 23 years of dedicated service of CMA Sri Lanka, I take great pleasure in introducing the book to this distinguished audience. In the Interest of our nation is an attempt to inquire into the historical reasons for setting up of CMA Sri Lanka and the journey traveled so far, contribution rendered to the accounting profession and to the society, and visualize the way forward at this important juncture of its evolution. This book also carries reflections and reminiscences of a collection of persons who had played significant roles in its evolution and a biographical sketch of its founder. The book consists of 10 chapters, running into 190 pages, with around 350 accompanying photographs. Let me now run through the front pages of the chapters in order to give you an idea of its contents. In the Interest of the Nation will be of interest to many. It will bring nostalgic memories of a bygone era to pioneers and alumni, provide a case study for researchers and students of management, and a stimulating account for the general reader. Above all, it will be a lasting legacy of a local story of accounting entrepreneurship worthy of remembrance for posterity. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you many engaging hours of reading the book. I also take this opportunity to thank Professor Vatavala for his guidance and the CMA Sri Lanka team for their assistance. May the saga of CMA Sri Lanka continue into the future with renewed energy and vitality in its dedicated service to the profession, academia, industry, and the society. Thank you. I take this opportunity now. It's my great pleasure to present this little contribution, this little book, to Professor Lakshman R. Vatwala.
That's a modest expression, a little book. So congratulations also to the author, who has obviously striven to place all that is relevant and salient in the pages. We're going to have them remain on stage now, and we have some names that we are going to be reading out very quickly, and the presentation of the books will be done to those. Complimentary copies will be issued to them. So we have Mr. Karu Jayasuriya, Mr. Hemaka Amarasuriya, Mr. A.N. Raman, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, so we actually do start the proceedings of the presentation, that is, with the handover. The books are being readied for that distribution, so I'm under instruction to pause ever so slightly until we have the books handily available.
And the logistics of that have been efficiently managed.
Yes. Okay, so we start off obviously with our chief guest being the recipient of the first issue. So maybe invite Acting High Commissioner Bood to please accept it. And then I will read the remainder of the names. I'm reading it in quick succession, and when you hear your name, you know that you need to come up and receive your copy. So, following the Acting High Commissioner for Canada, we have then Mr. Karu Jayasuriya, Mr. Hemaka Amarasuriya, Mr. A.N. Raman, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, the President of SAFA, while also serving as the Vice President of CMA. Then we have Mr. H.A. Wehalla, Mr. Deva Rodrigo, Mr. Bashir Ismail, Mr. T. Someswaran, Ms. Nilima Kasicheti, Professor Mangala Fonseca is of course the author, and he himself is there, Mr. Adrian Pereira.
We also invite to receive the book Mr. Asoka Jayasinghe, Mr. Aruna Jayavikrama, Mr. R. Kasi Chetty, Dr. Senaka Kalum, Mr. Manil Jayasinghe, Mr. J.M.U.B. Jayasekara, Mr. Ruchira Pereira, Mr. J.P.R. Karunaratna, Mr. S.P. Gajendra, Professor Harendra Karyavasam, Mr. Mahendra Jayasekara, Mr. Jehan Perimpanayagam, Mr. Tisanga Kumarasinghe, Ms. Jeevani Aberatna.
Then we also have Mr. L.B. Vattegedera, Dr. Mrs. Swenita Dilivera, Mrs. Shanti Maheswaran, Mr. Kapila Gunasekara, Ms. Sumudu Pagoda, Dr. Nuan Gunaratna, Professor Dileepa Samudrage, Professor Ajwad, Professor Dayananda Ambalangodage, Professor Anil Jayanta Fernando, and Professor Kennedy Gunavardhana. So all of those who we have named are invited, if they are present in the room obviously, to please come up and accept at the hand of the President the copies of the book just released. We would like to also include in our list Mr. Lalit De Silva, former Secretary to the Ministry of Trade. We would like to also include two other names, Ms. Ruchira Gunasekara, President of OPA, and Mr. Dulita as well, please. Both of them, of course, in a sense, represent the OPA while also representing their own professions. Yeah, immediate past president, yes. State Mortgage and Investment Bank Chairman, Mr. Karivasam, please also to be in the line. Pari Ratnayaka, please. Oh, sorry, my hearing is affected. It should have been Upali Ratnayaka. We had a gender mismatch, I beg your pardon. We're literally seconds away from our keynote speaker. Okay, former CEO of CMA, CMA. That's Upali, yeah. And then we have Mr. Karivasam. Thank you very much. So, at great speed and haste, in a manner of speaking, we now link up remotely. Why? As was mentioned, we have the presentation, which we refer to as the keynote, and that will be sounded online.
We have as our keynote speaker, and you may see him on screen in just a moment, Mr. Girish Ramachandra, who is president of Tata Consultancy Services, and as president for Asia Pacific, he oversees business in a diverse and dynamic region for one of the fastest growing businesses in the region, covering 46 countries and over 592,000 employees. He's responsible for the growth, strategy, and business results in the region, with a dual focus on driving digital transformation and accelerating growth. He has a long tenure within the organization and has held multiple leadership roles across markets in Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And he has a master's degree in business administration from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies and is a computer science graduate from PSG Tech. His theme today, digital technology to transform economy and business in crisis.
So we invite our keynote speaker to proceed.
Professor Lakshman Vatawala, Founder President, CMA Sri Lanka, as well as Chairman of the CMA National Management Accounting Conference. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant morning to all of you from the House of Tatas. Thank you for inviting me to today's conference. I am speaking to you from Singapore, the Asia Pacific headquarters of Tata Consultancy Services, which is one of the leading IT services, consulting, and business solution organization that has been a trusted partner for global businesses in their transformation journey for over 50 years. I also represent two other organizations. I'm on the supervisory board of the Global Reporting Initiative, which I think all of you would know, because all of you, if you are all having your sustainability standards, you must be reporting on GRI standards. And I'm also on the board of Health Innovation Exchange, an UN organization, where we look at how to bring technology solutions for the global south, as we call it. Our world is now in a constant state of change as well as transformation. And there are really valid reasons for this. If you look at it, in the last 12 months alone, we have experienced precarious episodes that have rocked the world that we have all got used to. For one, the global supply chain chaos is really showing no signs of improvement amidst the prolonged Russian-Ukraine conflict, as well as continued tensions in relation between the world's two superpowers, the US as well as China. And these political escalations have had a spiral effect on all economies, including our part of the world, with threats of a recession looming larger in the last few months. And even as we are now almost out of the woods after more than 2 years, COVID has exposed shortcomings in the world's medical ecosystem, leading to a serious outcomes, including preventable deaths in countries with negligible healthcare infrastructure. These incidents are not really random shocks, nor one-off incidents. And most damagingly, they have seriously impacted vast populations around the world in their continuous abilities to have access to even basic necessities, including healthcare, education, as well as other products and services that are imperative for a decent quality of life. In Sri Lanka, much has been written about hardship faced by the people. I do believe that what COVID has taught us is that countries and businesses have to transform, and everybody has to adopt digitization at scale. As a result of the fuel shortages, schools were closed, or schools were forced to close, as students and teachers have no ways of accessing public or private transportation. And even as schools and universities switched to online lessons, users had to grapple with frequent electricity cuts and the lack of reliability and security with internet connection. And this is not true only for Sri Lanka. It is also even true for countries like Singapore, where I live, where we see that we have had a substantial amount of school children who did not have access to computers. Focus on a few levers could both accelerate Sri Lanka's recovery and really make the gains most enduring in a post-COVID world. And I want to elucidate a few of them, and then I will talk about some solutions. First and foremost, job creation and skilling. COVID has not only accelerated job displacement set forth by automation, as well as increased labor at risk. As an example, in 2018, tourism contributed to nearly 5% of the country's GDP and generated over 400,000 jobs. In 2020, share of GDP dropped to 0.8%, and we lost almost 40,000 jobs. At the same time, COVID has also spurred demands in new sectors such as healthcare, e-commerce, as well as other digital fields, providing opportunities for displaced labor. Therefore, facilitating reskilling and redeployment at scale is going to be key. The second issue I want to talk about is climate change. The effects of the changing climate are already being felt across the world. Sri Lanka is highly vulnerable to climate change as well as coastal flooding. According to a World Bank report, Sri Lanka is expected to see a 1.2% annual GDP loss by 2050 due to climate change. Third issue I want to talk about is aging. According to a World Bank report, 12.3% of the population in Sri Lanka is age 60 or above, making it the country with the highest proportion of older adults in South Asia. And by 2050, Sri Lanka is expected to go through an unprecedented demographic transition into an aging population at a lower level of per capita income than most South Asian economies. The fourth issue I want to talk about is urbanization. This has been really a key driver for growth in Sri Lanka, transforming regional economies, societies, and the environment. By 2050, 30% of the population will be living in urban areas versus 18% in 2014, thereby increasing the pressure on urban infrastructure and quality of life. And the last issue I want to talk about is food security. Sri Lanka was one of the most food secure nations in South Asia, with 88% households bring food secure in 2009. The pandemic and the economic crisis has really heightened food security risks due to disruptions to both domestic as well as international food supply chains. Losses of employment and income are also reducing food consumption, leaving vulnerable groups at risk of hunger. Today, with only 10% of households being food secure, food security has really emerged as a key challenge for Sri Lanka. So these are problems which are not unique to Sri Lanka alone. Statistics from the World Bank show that a billion people across South Asia are still not connected to the internet and smartphones, and reliable healthcare remain unaffordable for millions of people. Yet, these are necessities more than wants, especially in times of crisis, and countries will have to find ways to level the playing fields before a dire situation worsens and gets out of hand, as we have seen in COVID. The question is how countries drive change and stay ahead of the curve in a post-COVID Industry 4.0 world. Technology transformation could have really some answers. COVID has required organizations to pivot towards remote working. Working remotely and being able to live in a rural can actually help reduce rapid urbanization. Similarly, if 300 million farmers get digital access, an additional 500 million tons of food can be produced with an additional income of $200 million to them. Non-intrusive sensors similarly can monitor seniors for inactivity, and data analytics could be deployed to predict health issues so that ecosystems could be activated. And technologies like digital twin can also help manufacturing, but can also help energy consumption and reduce carbon footprint. And focus on automation could help productivity, but also create a new cadre of jobs that can be fulfilled. So in a post-COVID world, I think digitization, innovation, and sustainability are going to be the pillars of growth. And there are three actors who need to take ownership of the future, which is government, enterprises, as well as all of us individuals. COVID has really taught how underprepared we were for a crisis which affected all of us and tested business continuity plan. Really, resilience called for both the ability to withstand shocks to the system as well as adaptability needed to pivot business model as well as operations. In the short to medium term, enterprises really need to focus on digitization to build a strong digital core to address the imperatives of what I call resilience, adaptability, as well as agility. And that is what I have been observing with our customers across the world on what they have been doing post the pandemic. Fortunately, in recent years, we have seen many examples of how public sector organizations have stepped up the plate to find or even develop from scratch digital solutions to keep citizens safe while managing an evolving pandemic response. So I feel that while enterprises build their businesses robustly, the role of the government is to really build what I call the digital spine so that enterprises can leverage this digital infrastructure. And I want to give an example of what I call the India digital spine. The Indian government kickstarted its own journey towards a digital first economy in the last decade through a very unique and innovative socio-economic infrastructure called the India Stack. Put simply, the India Stack has set the foundation for really a comprehensive digital government to citizen framework to solve population scale problems through the creation of a set of what we call application programming interface or APIs. I want to just give you a little bit, peel the onion a little bit and tell you what are the 4 layers which the India Stack is premised. First and foremost is what I call the presence-less layer. Okay, it provides digital identity to all people so that citizen can participate in any service easily. So this is the first thing, give everybody a digital identity. The second one is what I call the paperless layer, which is document all your digital records that are tagged to an individual's digital identity, thereby enabling universal reach. So this provides the paperless part of the digital identity. The third one is providing the cashless layer, which provides a single interface to all the country's bank accounts, which can democratize payments and payments infrastructure. And lastly, the consent layer, which effectively allows data to move freely and securely to democratize the market for data. Most importantly, the launch and subsequent widespread adoption of what we call this India digital stack means the country and its citizens now have at its fingertips an interoperable platform that is not only efficient, but it also provides frictionless experience across both government to consumer or government to business across a wide segment of day-to-day uses. I want to just give you some examples of some interesting things what this particular India Stack has done. Beyond providing products and services, this is actually fostering innovations in citizen services in what we call G2B2C or government to business to consumer path, especially in a world where the focus is around contactless as well as online transactions. For example, India created 350 million plus bank accounts for banking the unbanked using this layer. 1.1 billion new digital identities were issued in the last 6 years. And during COVID, the direct benefit transfers to almost 800 million beneficiaries happened during FY20. Again, this is during the peak of the pandemic. And mobile payments alone in FY20 was to the tune of $37 billion. So, and a simple example is even a major telco today was able to onboard over 1 million customers in 170 days using the India Stack. So the government provided the stack. This particular telco was able to onboard 1 million new customers in 170 days. What it means is that the customer acquisition cost, which usually hovers in any country it's around $25 to get a new customer. In this particular case, because of the India stack, the customer acquisition cost came down to merely $1 per customer. So similarly, we have seen the India stack enabling license aggregators of data to easily obtain data from information providers based on the citizen consent provided. What this means is that micro SMEs, which unsurprisingly makes the backbone of any economy, as well as its gig workers, will have access to credit as well as much needed funds digitally and easily. So just as we see in Thailand, Singapore, and other parts of ASEAN, the India stack also played a crucial role in ensuring the overall Indian government response to COVID-19, making its objective of helping its own population. The India stack has democratized the process of digital development and access, creating a virtuous cycle of sustainable and scalable digitalization. The success in banking, financial services, and fintech also laid the foundation for other sectors such as healthcare, education, agriculture to reap the benefits of digital services. And it is not just the ordinary people who have benefited from this digitization exercise. Companies and public organizations have come on board this digital journey to better meet the needs of the customers and people they serve through access through innovation accelerators like 3D printing, IoT, blockchain, as well as virtual reality technologies. I want to give you an example of a very interesting program that we pioneered in India. We call it the Digital Nerve Center, or DINC, that was developed by TCS to leverage technology, people, and processes in a holistic way to improve healthcare outcomes for the underprivileged. Among other things, the DINC today, it connects all the cancer care centers across India through a digital spine. And the technology platform provides a single and cohesive view of the entire health ecosystem that enable different stakeholders to maintain and to make appointments and to maintain digitized health records easily and securely. So the COVID-19 pandemic and economic crisis of the past years have really decimated lives and livelihoods. But if there is any silver lining, it is that nations and governments have been galvanized amidst the tragedies to extend a helping hand to one another by leveraging the power of technology and IT to solve and plug the gaps that exist in the status quo. Indeed, for my colleagues and I at TCS, the way forward is really anchored in what I call a digital foundation that will empower people across the globe, irrespective of their backgrounds or starting points, to achieve more and more lives and live lives with dignity. And this wouldn't come as a surprise to most, if not all of us in this conference. What we have learned from COVID is that every business has become a technology business. There used to be technology in every business before COVID. But now, after COVID, every business has become a tech business. And according to the United Nations, the digital Big Bang brought about by the pandemic has compressed normal periods of social adoption of digital technologies from years to months or even weeks. And this can be seen even in countries where governments deployed technology solutions to ensure its population needs were met. In fact, some governments took the opportunity to revamp operations to drive efficiency and better serve the people. So today, digital skills are a necessity for most employees. Digitization allows workers to upskill and keep up the job demands in this changing landscape, which creates more economic opportunity for a country. The fact is that infrastructure transformation alone will not improve lives without simultaneous progress being made on the economic front. Today, as new roles emerge and skill requirements evolve rapidly, organizations and employees will need to keep regularly training to keep up with fast changing job demands. Yet, studies have shown that 2 in 3 workers in Asia are not confident that they are gaining digital skills fast enough to meet future career needs. And an astonishing 93% of workers in organizations face obstacles such as limited awareness of training options and the lack of time to digital skills training. To tackle this worrying trend, governments are prioritizing digital skill training for their workforce, recognizing its importance in unlocking its potential of economies from around the Asia Pacific region. So, for example, Singapore, TCS worked with Singapore's SG United to offer traineeship during the pandemic that helped recent graduates to develop industry relevant skills and help boost employability in the post-corona economy. We also launched what is called the Digital Acceleration Center, which support from the Economic Development Board to help businesses with their global COVID recovery and build a future-ready workforce. We believe organizations and businesses can be a catalyst for change, and TCS will continue to lead the way to connect people to opportunities in this digital economy. To date, we have established several strategic partnerships and initiatives in Singapore alone with almost all the leading universities, which has really contributed to the skilling and reskilling of the country's workforce. Indeed, digitization can be a force for good, and we believe it is both the responsibility of regulators, board executives to reflect on the company's abilities to create long-term value and drive better adoption and of innovation and higher transparency as we transition for a better world. As well as accelerating the adoption of digital trends and practices, COVID has also underscored the fact that collaboration and innovation are pivotal to ensuring the world's well-being. While digitization alone may not be the panacea to all the problems faced by Sri Lanka and other countries in Asia, I have no doubt it will transform lives and the economy during this crisis. And as I say, there is a responsibility of the government, which is to build the digital spine for the country. There is a responsibility for the businesses to continuously to train its workforce and make its workforce ready for the future. And all of us as citizens, or what I call digital citizens or digizens, to continuously keep training, reskilling ourselves. And the onus really is on every one of us here to double down on this immensely meaningful mission to leverage both our intellect, technology, financial, and human capital to create exponential impact on the communities we operate. After all, when the world wins, we win. I really want to thank you. I'm sorry I could not be there in person. I want to wish you a very fulfilling conference ahead over the next 2 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Mr. Ramachandran. We appreciate very much the underscoring, the needing the need of the hour, and that is digital technology, not as a fun, chic thing, but as something that belongs to the entirety of the community. So it is not just for the elite, but for all. And we appreciate very much how that can actually transform society, economy, business. The next of our speakers, as was mentioned even earlier on in Professor Wattawala's remarks, is also connecting with us remotely, and he is now poised and ready to address this audience in his role as guest of honor. And that is the president of the International Federation of Accountants, or IFAC, as is often remembered. It's Alan Johnson who became the IFAC president a little while ago in November of the year 2020, having previously served as the deputy president and also as a board member for a number of years since November of 2015. And he was nominated to the IFAC board by ACCA, that's the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. And he's a former non-executive director of Geronimo Martins, which is a food retailer with operations in multiple locations on the planet, in Portugal, Poland, and also Colombia. Currently, the independent chairman of the company's internal control committee. Interestingly, too, he was at one time the chief audit executive for the Unilever Group and counted about 35 years with that organization. So here's Alan to delve into what the accountancy profession needs to do to support sustainable economic and social development. Notable terms there: sustainable economic and social development. Here's Alan Johnson.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I'm
Indeed.
sitting in a hotel. I'm sitting in a hotel in Johannesburg attending another event here this week, and that's why I cannot be with you today. But thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to join you virtually. So, President Wattawala, thank you very much for inviting me to speak at your 2022 National Management Accounting Conference, and I'm delighted to be able to be back with you. As you probably all know, we are the global voice of the accountancy profession. IFAC has 181 members. We represent more than 3 million professional accountants right across the world in more than 135 countries. And essentially, our mission is simply to serve the public interest, and I stress the words public interest, by enhancing the relevance, the reputation, and the value of the global accountancy profession. Essentially, our role is to speak out as a global voice, to lead and develop a future-ready profession, and to support, of course, the development, the adoption, and the implementation of high-quality international standards, which we all need in order to serve the public well. But what IFAC does is really only possible when we do it through our member and associate organizations such as yourselves, and of course our other network partners such as SAFA and other regional bodies. And this is because you as our members and our network partners offer the resources, the diversity that we need right across the world, which allows us to engage in both global but also regional and local conversations. Now, CMA Sri Lanka is and has been a very active member and a very important member of IFAC. In the 22 years since your founding, you've become an influential voice and an advocate in Sri Lanka, and indeed amongst our global profession. And this week's conference is another example of your invaluable work. So I'd like to thank you very much for what you've been doing for the past 22 years. Today, I'll focus on 3 themes, which I believe are extremely relevant. One is sustainability. Second is public sector resilience. And of course, the third is the fight against corruption and related financial crimes. But first, let me start with sustainability. You know, sustainability has many definitions and it's open to a lot of interpretation. To some, it's just about environmental protection. To others, it's about green finance. And others, it's about the foundations of an equitable, inclusive, and lasting economic growth. But, you know, first of all, I believe what it is, it's about good governance in the private and the public sector to ensure that we meet the needs of everyone, not just the few. But no understanding of sustainability would be complete without all of the factors that support sustainability, be they environmental, social, and governance, or what you would refer to as the ESGs. And, you know, the UN 2030 agenda for the Sustainable Development Goals, and remember, we are now coming to the end of 2022, so there's not many years to go, for me, is the foremost comprehensive framework to address these issues. And, you know, I'd like to just remind everyone that these three elements are indivisible because they're integrated and balance the three dimensions of what I would refer to as sustainable development, which is the economic development, the social development, and of course, pressingly today, the environmental development. However, one dimension of sustainability does stand out today, and that requires decisive action to meet the 2030 timeline, because that is a common denominator for the success of all three ESG factors. And, you know, we sit in a world today which is being devastated by environmental damage, affecting, as your previous speaker referred to, the livelihoods and the lives of millions of people across the world. So basically, maintaining the status quo will ensure failure. So it cannot be business as usual. We need actions, and we need quick actions. So how we choose to spend the rest of the decade, whether we find a way to meet the urgent demand and the need for non-financial information, will, I believe, decide our future as a profession and indeed as a society. Because for centuries, accounting has been the language of business, of governments, of trade, and capital markets. But it has become very clear that in the 21st century, this language does not have all the grammar or vocabulary needed for the ecological, economic, and social crises of climate change. Now, professional accountants have always played an important role in supporting the sustainable development of economies and societies. But it is now time for us to expand our language and apply it urgently to create sustainable value. And our ambition clearly must be global, because we cannot solve the crises in each and every country across the world unless and until we take a global approach, because all countries are interconnected with each other, and solving a problem in one place for that country does not necessarily help solve the issues around the world unless we do it together. Because we are all interconnected, we live in a global village where the effects of climate change or poor social behavior or ineffective governance impact every country. There's a great need and growing demand for information on environmental, on social and governance issues. And the accountancy profession is responding to meet that demand. As you know, IFAC campaigned vigorously amongst all of our stakeholders and partners for the establishment of an international sustainability standards board, or what we call the ISSB. And it was established in November 2021 at COP26 in Glasgow. And I believe it was an important step forwards towards an effective global response to the climate crisis. But for global standards to have a truly global reach, country-level adoption and implementation is key. And this is where the profession in every country needs to engage with public authorities and regulators to build a more sustainable future with the ISSB's global baseline of sustainability disclosure standards, or what we call the SDSs. And I believe as a profession, we're well placed and we're well prepared with our deep insight into value creation in public and private organizations to champion the work of the ISSB. But let me be clear, standards alone will not address or solve the climate crisis. We want to support, deliver, and act on a full understanding of value and value creation in every organization. Because corporate reporting is not only about creating greater transparency and accountability performance, it is also just as critically meant to convey how an organization creates and sustains value, and to ensure that this information truly reflects its operations and its impacts. This information gets to the heart of public interest, what we mean by public interest, because everyone, not only shareholders, but also employees, customers, regulators, and indeed civil society, needs the most complete picture of value and value creation that an organization delivers, or indeed sometimes does not deliver, or even worse, destroys. This is clearly a precondition for achieving a sustainable economic and environmental future. Integrated reporting provides a foundation for rethinking value creation because it empowers organizations to break down reporting silos and recast reporting as a more meaningful activity involving the measurement, the management, and the communication of what matters to long-term success. I also believe that it delivers in the short term resilience of organizations, and therefore resilience of societies. Sustainability reporting is essential, but even the best and most useful disclosures are no more than information. Because for societies to work towards sustainability and for that to have real value, it must lead to different behaviors. Because these will be the true measure of progress in aligning the short-term decisions with long-term value creation, long-term resiliency, and long-term sustainability. This standard applies to the activities of every organization because it is easy for any organization to claim to be building sustainable business model and sustainability information, for example, in its strategic decision-making. But the bar is much higher than that. Organizations must also practice, choose to act differently, and demonstrate that they are doing so. Meeting these expectations is essential to fulfilling our profession's public interest mandate. You know, and professional accountants everywhere in the world might ask the question, why me? I cannot save the world. But there are very good reasons to believe that professional accountants will save the world. Why? Because we're at the center of information flows and decision-making. And so we're uniquely placed and positioned to capture, analyze, report on, and of course, to assure sustainability information. We have the skills and competencies that are critical for connecting the financial and non-financial and sustainability information, including our understanding of business models, risk management, systems and processes, and performance measurement, along, of course, with the growing specific knowledge of ESG factors and the ability to collaborate with experts. Your previous speaker used the word collaboration. This is so essential. We as a profession have the global reach like no other profession. Professional accountants meet the needs of global capital markets, of global clients, and global supply chains. We provide high quality assurance services, which are always in demand because they enhance the credibility and trust in disclosures. And of course, we have our public interest mandate because as a regulated profession, we are subject to an ethical code and public oversight. We are charged with acting in the public interest with professional judgment, with professional skepticism, and most important of all, in my opinion, with our independence. And there's no question that we are the right professionals, the enablers who will lead and help lead our organizations into a sustainable future. There will be more that we need to learn, new competencies to acquire, and new roles to fulfill as ESG factors increasingly guide the decisions of our organizations and our clients. But I believe we are ready to seize the opportunities that come with climate action and broader sustainability efforts. I'm sure you'll all recall at COP26 in November last year, world leaders made significant pledges for mitigation. The summit agreement had a greater emphasis than in past agreements on adaptation, which is crucial to the ability of the world to endure the terrible effects of global warming that have seen so much devastation everywhere across the world, including in South Asia. But commitments are one thing, easy to write down on a piece of paper and put a signature to that. But until they are implemented, agreements are only words. And let's be honest, it is unlikely that many of today's leaders, be they policymakers in government or indeed business leaders, will be in power in 2050 and beyond to be held accountable to deliver the commitments that they made at COP26. If adaptation and mitigation are to succeed, therefore, then the accountancy profession needs to lead the world from what I call commitments to implementation. Specific plans need to be made to cover every step of the process, from the first tree to be saved to the last tree to be planted. These plans need to have clear measures and targets that should be reported on regularly and transparently with an independent verification. The foundational skills of our profession and the ethical core of our profession are critical to providing this and doing so in a way that is connected to financial performance. And CMA Sri Lanka members have a critical role to play here. I'll quickly move on to public sector financial management, what we call PFM. There's much public doubt and concern around government finances today, right across the world. And of course, I've read sadly about the situation in Sri Lanka over the past 6 months. Ordinary citizens are looking to their governments to respond to their current and their future needs. And this will only be possible with planning that accounts for the full scope of those needs and respond to them with sustainable, equitable, and inclusive planning. The world's governments must advance from crisis response to recovery with sustainable fiscal programs and other measures that bring about a green and equitable future. And the profession must be there to help them, innovate, to advise them, to support and encourage enhancements in public financial management, including the requirement to report and assure sustainable information in the public sector. And the contributions of our profession are often felt most keenly through government, in the good management and rigorous oversight of public funding, in the efficient and effective delivery of public services, and in the transparency and accountability that defines our work as public servants. This has become quite visible during the COVID pandemic, with the very large and sustained state interventions to support people and businesses affected by the public health measures. And the role of our profession as professional accountants is also critical to preventing and fighting fraud and corruption. These issues predate the current crisis. And of course, they're especially damaging today. And our profession must continue to fight for better accountability and better transparency. We've learned a lot from the pandemic. The more work our profession does in the public sector, the better we will understand the effects and the future scope for stimulus and cash transfers to support economies in future crises. These crises are sadly sure to come, and many are already here, because it's not just the pandemic of COVID or infectious diseases, of pollution, but most importantly, it's the pandemic of climate change. Trust is an enormous part of this discussion. It is particularly important in times of crises. In fact, the overlapping crises, given the quite reasonable expectations of ordinary people that public money is spent in the public interest. The importance of trust places a greater emphasis on the role of professional accountants in the public sector. And data consistently shows that our profession is amongst the most trusted professions in society everywhere in the world. I would just quickly talk about fraud and corruption, because we must continue to fight against fraud and corruption and the impact it has, the negative impact it has on society, and most importantly, the impact it has on the weakest in society. And as we look to the future, our profession in both the private and the public sector, and in the broader movement for sustainability, it is important to look more deeply and understand what is holding us back. Corruption and related economic crimes, such as money laundering, bribery, illicit financial flows, and fraud, are significant obstacles to economic growth and human development, and ultimately to the achievement of the 17 United Nations Sustainability Goals, or SDGs. The UN estimates that between $5 and $7 trillion of investment is needed annually to achieve the SDGs. But at the same time, about half of that, $3.6 trillion, is lost to corruption each year. We could not afford to lose $3.6 trillion a year before the pandemic, and we definitely cannot afford to lose that amount now. So the global accountancy profession has a very important role to play here, because we're uniquely placed as advisors to businesses and to governments, and we're uniquely placed to support an ecosystem of other policy actors at the global and national levels, and in all of course, in the public interest. IFAC is doing a lot in this space. In September, so just over a month ago, we released a comprehensive anti-bribery, anti-corruption action plan, which we developed in partnership with the International Bar Association. The plan outlines core principles and trends and gives clear and concise priority actions for the global accountancy profession. We have since then launched up Public Trust in Tax, Global Perspectives, the first project under our anti-corruption plan, which we conducted in partnership with ACCA. We've been doing this since 2017. And in every year that we've done this survey, what we are told is that our profession is the most trusted profession. What we found is that attitudes to tax are largely driven by population's views on corruption. Trust in the system is lower when taxpayers perceive higher levels of corruption and diversion of public funds. Regardless of the true reasons behind poor delivery of public services, this apathy or distrust will discourage taxpayers from continuing to pay their fair share, or worse, may encourage people to avoid paying any tax at all. So compliance depends on a perception of fairness in the system. In other words, the SDGs of reduced inequality, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and many others are going to be much harder to achieve when tax systems are perceived to be corrupt. But there is good news, because our profession is indeed trusted, and we are here to help address these issues. We'll be launching many more initiatives related to this action plan over the coming months, and please do keep a lookout through your member bodies CMA Sri Lanka and others, and on the IFAC website to see what's coming. But I want to emphasize the importance of trust, because we know trust takes years to build, but can be lost in a matter of seconds. Everything we do as a profession must be focused on and enhancing trust and confidence in our profession and in our organizations, including governments. Because being a professional accountant means calling on our fundamental ethical principles to fight corruption and build trust. Our ethical core is defined by the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants. It is the only thing that differentiates us from any other consultant. It is this ethical core that allows us to call ourselves with pride a professional accountant. So let me conclude. There's an incredibly important need for the profession to step into a greater leadership role on sustainability, on public financial management, and in the fight against corruption as part of our public interest mandate. But there's also an incredible opportunity for us to help those in authority make those tough decisions and choices that are inevitably facing every country as a result of the pandemic, but not only the pandemic. Our job is to ensure that our profession helps create a better world for all people. Our role relates to the resilience of society as a whole, a healthy natural environment, trust and fairness in institutions, and a sustainable economic revival. So let us do what is right for the long-term benefit of all. The profession can create a better world with stronger economies and fairer societies by doing so. And by doing so, we can all be proud to be members of our great profession. So I'd like to thank every member of the accountancy profession in Sri Lanka for the fantastic work that you do. It is an honor to be with you at this event today. And it has been a privilege to have been the IFAC president at a time of so much change, at a time of so many challenges, but also so many opportunities. In fact, in 15 days' time, I stepped down as the IFAC president in Mumbai. So this is one of my last conferences that I'll be attending. So thank you again very much. I'm sorry I cannot be with you in person, but I wish you all a successful and enjoyable conference. Thank you.
Thank you too, Mr. Alan Johnson, and we certainly wish you well, having your term of office completed, as you said, in 15 days. May things proceed well with you thereafter too. And thank you very much for being engaged with us at this event here, this conference here in Colombo. So, those of you who are here and listening, the IFAC president was wont to indicate to all of you that you can change the world. That might seem overly ambitious, but certainly in the role of enabler. That's the word that was used, as an enabler. And that you do have the possibility of being an influencer in your own sphere, for the reason that you have access to data and information, and also a plethora of disciplines that you do touch. That means your focus is not fine, but wide. And so it is possible, therefore, to influence a lot of people. And we also heard with much concern the matter of fraud and corruption. And don't we know it? Don't we know it? So there it is, that we've been encouraged. Now we are focusing on something else.
Yes, it is custom that CMA recognizes those members of the community who, as Arun reminded us, have influence within their sphere, and they've built a legacy of trust over time, as well as, you know, making sure that they have that technical expertise, excellence backing them. So it is time now for the CMA Business Excellence Awards for the year 2022.
We'd like to invite President Lakshman R. Watawala now to take the stage. And do we have, yes, we do have with us and on stage the Deputy High Commissioner, or should I say the Acting High Commissioner for Canada, Mr. Bood. So, the presentation of the CMA Business Excellence Awards. The recipients are in the room, and we will We'd like to invite President Safa, Mr. Hennayaka Bandar, also to be up on the stage as these awards are presented. Yes. So the recipients are in the room, and we will be inviting them to come up on the stage. We have Dr. Udayasiri Karyavasam, an alumnus of the University of Jayawardhanapura and RMIT University of Melbourne. And he read for his DBA at the University of Newcastle in Sydney. And he's a fellow of CMA, fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and has served in several organizations such as chairman of JEDB, JDB, Securities and Exchange Commission, the Bank of Ceylon, Ceylon Electricity Board, as well as several other prominent government organizations and financial institutions. Dr. Udayasiri Karyavasam.
Congratulations. And the next recipient of the CMA Business Excellence Award for 2022 is Mr. Nandana Ekanayake. He's a fellow member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, possessing over 30 years of post-qualifying experience at different levels of management. He's also an associate member of the Certified Practicing Accountants of Australia. Mr. Ekanayake is the current chairman and CEO of Siam City Cement Lanka Limited in Colombo. He has previously served as the Vice President of Finance, IT and Procurement of Holcim Lanka Limited, Colombo, and as the Finance Controller and General Manager of Ruhunu Cement Company Limited. He has also served as Finance Director of Holcim Vietnam Limited in Ho Chi Minh City.
Then we also have Mr. R.A. Jayavira with an MBA from the University of Colombo. He's a fellow member of both the Institute of Chartered Accountants Sri Lanka and the Institute of Certified Management Accountants Sri Lanka. He's a senior partner of P.E. Matthew and Company, or PEMCO, and one of the oldest firms of chartered accountants in this country. Mr. Jayavira functioned as an additional secretary to the Ministry of Cultural and Religious Affairs some while ago, 1994 to the year 2000, and he writes on economics, management, auditing, and governance. And that's our awards done. We now proceed with recognizing our sponsors.
So we begin with the gold sponsors. With great thanks, we invite Lanka IOC to receive a token of appreciation. They are a gold sponsor, and we have a representative. Thank you. We have two representatives coming up from Lanka
Indeed.
IOC.
Our gold sponsor, as was mentioned, yes. Certainly a warm round of applause is appropriate because these are difficult days and it's great to have sponsors.
Thank you to Lanka IOC. We have another gold sponsor, and that is Sri Lanka Telecom PLC, Mobitel. We have our representatives coming up. Thank you very much.
So another gold sponsor. Thank you. And now we have silver sponsors. Selinco Life Insurance Limited. Selinco Life Insurance Limited. We say thank you to National Savings Bank, NSB. Then too we have OTR Lanka. OTR Lanka. I saw their commercial on screen a little while ago about wheels. Not within wheels, but wheels. Next is Lanka Tiles PLC, another silver sponsor. Lanka Tiles PLC. Siam City Cement Lanka Limited. So Mr. Ekanaika represents them too. Soft Logic Life, a silver sponsor. People's Bank is included. Yes, People's Bank. Silver sponsor.
Among the sponsors is our print media partner for this event, Vijay Newspapers Limited.
And that's it for our sponsor recognition. I believe now we next focus on the Okay. Mr. Ranganathan is due to accept one of the books that was released earlier. That's the history book in the interest of the nation. And Mr. Jayawardena will accept it on his behalf. We're just doing a little catch up with this one. So that's for Mr. Ranganathan, yes. So we shall now invite our chief guest for the address.
Yes, our chief guest today has been a Canadian civil servant for the past 21 years, and he assumed the post of Councillor, Political and Trade at the High Commission of Canada to Sri Lanka and the Maldives upon arriving in Colombo in late July 2021. Prior to this assignment, he served as head of Political, Economic and Public Affairs at the High Commission of Canada to Mozambique, Malawi and Eswatini, and also served in positions in embassies in other parts of Africa and India. Interestingly, in times before he joined the government, he worked as a professional musician and a musical director in Ottawa, Montreal, as well as the Toronto region, as well as in musical instrument retail. Mr. Bood has a Bachelor of Social Sciences Honours Baccalaureate in Political Science and a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Ottawa.
He won't be singing, but speaking today.
Indeed. Professor Lakshman R. Watala, a founder, president of CMA, Sri Lanka. Mr. Alan Johnson, president of the International Federation of Accountants. Mr. Bandara, president of the South Asian Federation of Accountants. Mr. Raman, advisory council member of CMA, Sri Lanka. Mr. Ramachandran, president of TCS, Asia Pacific. Council members, distinguished guests, good morning, bonjour, ayubawan, wanakam. I'm really honored to join you here today for the inauguration of this year's CMA National Management Accounting Conference. And what a conference it is. Kudos to the CMA for such a wonderful and impressive lineup of speakers, some of whom we've heard from already this morning. This conference, under the theme of crisis and opportunity to rebuild Sri Lanka, is particularly well-timed. And the theme could not be more on point. These are difficult times, but amidst all of the hardship, there is indeed an opportunity to rebuild Sri Lanka. All of the session topics of discussion, overcoming the economic crisis, state-owned enterprises, fraud and corruption, and creating value through sustainability and integrated thinking, they tie very nicely into the theme. But I won't try to delve into these topics in any great detail. I will leave that to the experts who are much more qualified than I. But as a foreign observer and great admirer of the accounting professional, allow me to leave you with just a few observations or insights that may be of interest or may be helpful, focusing on perhaps one of the main session topics, that of fraud and corruption. First, my personal admiration for the profession. For many a layperson, accounting is a profession that gives cause for eyes to glaze over. That is not me. I see it as a fascinating field, a noble line of work that incorporates both science and art. If we think about it, it weaves together fields such as mathematics and sociology, biology, politics. Guided by numbers, professional accountants uncover the story of a business or organization line by line and how people operate within it. I find this fascinating. And in that sense, professional accountants are essentially storytellers, among other things. And it is this ability to understand and interpret the meaning behind the numbers that puts them among those on the front line of Sri Lanka's efforts to rebuild. Because of your profession, you have valuable insight into issues around management quality, economic trends, their effects upon organizations, societies, issues around sustainability, integrated thinking, and, of course, on fraud and corruption. Now, fraud and corruption are a major challenge all over the globe, as we heard from Alan. In the public and the private sector, in small and big organizations, and businesses. It takes on so many forms, some of which may even seem innocuous or unavoidable. Preferential treatment, a bribe, but corruption is never innocuous. If an act of corruption goes unnoticed or is concealed, even just once, it means that the checks and balances have failed. And if they fail once, they will likely fail again and again. And no country is immune. We all grapple with corruption. And while a few benefit, the rest of us pay a significant price. As Alan mentioned, in 2018, the UN estimated that the annual cost of global corruption was $3.6 trillion. Yes, $3.6 trillion. That's way more than the annual GDP of my country, Canada. It's greater than the GDP of 4 of the G7 members. Individually, not combined, but individually. Greater than the GDP of the UK, of France, Italy. Concretely, what does 3.6 trillion mean? Well, it means reduced growth, competitiveness. It means reduced investment, inward investment, which in turn impacts job creation and salaries. It leads to poor service delivery. It perpetuates unsustainable practices. It impacts our quality of life, widens inequalities, and the poor and the most vulnerable among us bear the highest cost. Now, the people in this room are particularly well placed in the fight to fight against corruption and can contribute to preventing it. And this is where I must take issue a little bit with the title of Session 3, Avoiding Fraud and Corruption to Transform Businesses with Benefits to Society. Yes, but with $3.6 trillion at stake globally and possibly millions, maybe even billions annually at stake in Sri Lanka alone, should we not take a bit of a harder line by changing avoiding perhaps to preventing, stopping, ending? Of course, you accountants cannot do it all alone. It has to be a concerted effort by various stakeholders. But you can do your part, making a significant contribution to the promotion of transparency and accountability in Sri Lanka. Calling out corruption. As Sri Lanka faces an unprecedented economic crisis, good governance, be it in the private or public sector, is obviously key. Neither a business nor a country can thrive if it is not properly managed. More than ever, Sri Lanka needs its management accountants, women and men who are broad-minded and forward-thinking, guided by integrity and professionalism, and dedicated not only to serving their organization, but their country as well, thereby protecting the public interest. The Institute of Certified Management Accountants has been training and developing such socially responsible, knowledgeable, innovative thinking and capable professionals for more than 20 years. CMA makes a significant contribution in the field of professional management accountancy in Sri Lanka, and Canada is proud. We are proud to have provided technical assistance through then CMA Canada, which is now known as Chartered Professional Accountants Canada, or CPA Canada, to help establish the Institute. Promoting good governance has long been a pillar of Canadian foreign policy and international assistance. In Sri Lanka, our support has included technical assistance such as that provided to the CMA many years ago, and collaboration with various local organizations working to strengthen the rule of law, transparency, and accountability, to promote diversity and inclusion, to empower civil society, and to address fraud and corruption. Aside from being instrumental to informed decision-making that will lead to long-term success of their businesses or organizations, aside from being potential bulwarks against fraud and corruption, there is yet another role that management accountants are uniquely well placed to play for the betterment of society. The Financial Literacy Survey, Sri Lanka 2021, a publication of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, which is now available for public access, indicates that only 58% of Sri Lankan adults are financially literate. Financial literacy, of course, among the population is important on several levels, not only for household financial well-being, but also for people to make informed, responsible decisions as participants in a democracy. I was looking into chartered professional accountants' contributions to Canada's prosperity, and it is obviously vast, but one particular element caught my attention, and I would like to share it with you today, perhaps as a kickoff for Canada's Financial Literacy Month, which begins tomorrow. CBA Canada delivers a free financial literacy program for Canadians. This includes financial literacy education sessions, including some tailored for women, seniors, or newcomers to Canada. They develop guidelines of all kinds. And having a daughter, my favorite is A Parent's Guide to Raising Money-Smart Kids. There was a version of this particular program that when I was posted to Mozambique, we put forward working with the CPA and OCAM in Mozambique, the Mozambique is a sister organization for kids. So we had it translated into Portuguese, and the kids really took to it. So this is a fabulous kind of thing. CPA Canada's president and CEO, Pamela Steer, was recently highlighting in an article how improving financial literacy can actually help equip Canadians with tools to better navigate uncertain economic times. This would also apply here, I would think. Increasing financial literacy is a powerful tool for positive change in Sri Lanka. And while I know that some in the financial sector have undertaken such work, efforts can no doubt be enhanced in this area. I hope that this conference will provide an opportunity to explore other novel and innovative ideas and ways to replace perhaps unproductive or even destructive tendencies of the past with something better. That professional accountants, given their unique vantage point, will be inspired to engage and contribute to Sri Lanka's economic recovery and ultimate prosperity. Before I conclude, I would again note and congratulate the CMA on the publishing of the book about its history. I look forward to reading more about the work that the Institute has accomplished since its inception over 2 decades ago. And as you look at the way forward, it is quite relevant to take stock of what has been done to date and consider how to build upon it. With that said, I thank you for having me, and I wish you all a most successful and illuminating conference. Thank you.
Thank you too, Your Excellency Daniel Bood, which allows us to move forward. Thank you for your endorsement of the enterprise that we are in now and your good wishes for the conference. Yes, indeed. Now, one aspect of the conference is the submission of papers. And about that, what do we do?
Yes, so we have awards to be presented for those who have contributed their knowledge, who have presented, in fact, yesterday their abstracts. at the CMA Research Symposium, or CMARS, for which they will be awarded today. So we are able to now appreciate what goes into that research and the depth of work that has been put into these presentations in an address by the chairman of the CMA Research Symposium, Professor Roshan Ajwad, who will speak on the presentation of the research that was conducted yesterday. So Professor Ajwad is a professor of accounting at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura, as well as the roles that he has played in support of CMA. So we'd like to invite him now to tell us more.
So yes, so the presentation will follow what we hear now.
Okay, I wish you a very good morning to all of you. Dear Professor Lakshman Vatawala, the President, CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, the Vice President, as well as SAFA President, the Council members, Professor Mangala Fonseca, and distinguished invitees, speakers, ladies and gentlemen. As the Chairperson and the Head of Scientific and Evaluation Committee, it is a great pleasure to be here and address you. In line with the CMA National Management Conference 2022, which is we are going on, the CMA Research Symposium, CMAS 2022, was organized by the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, CMA. I really appreciate Professor Lakshman Vatawala, the President, CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, the Vice President and the Council for taking this noble initiative. Actually, it's a brainchild. The idea was from Professor Lakshman Vatawala. He invited me some times back, and with the blessings of Mr. Hennayaka Bandara as well as the Council, to take up this responsibility and to do a conference, an academic conference in line with the National Management Conference. So we all know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crisis that Sri Lanka is undergoing, we are facing massive difficulties. So as researchers, as academics, we have a great role to provide our input and insights into overcome this situation. So being the premier national management accounting body, CMA is doing a yeoman service on providing the professionals as well as the society with the required professional input. On the other hand, as academics, we do have a responsibility as well. We need to work hand in hand with the professional bodies as well as the industry. That I see a great responsibility of academics. Not to work in silos, but to work together. That I think is what Professor meant and the Council as well as the CMA has taken up. And so we organized and with the blessings of CMA and delivered this conference. Based on the main conference theme, to rebuild Sri Lanka, there were 4 tracks for which we called for extended abstracts. So these are the tracks that we called for extended abstracts. Digital technology to transform and rebuild economy, Sri Lanka. Governance, ethics, prevention of fraud and corruption for the benefit of the society. Value creation through sustainability and integrated reporting. Management accounting practices in the new normal. Accordingly, we received 22 extended abstracts for these tracks with cutting-edge research findings. We are very happy to receive 22 abstracts, being a difficult time. The academics are, as well as the professionals from both, we called for papers, and we got 22 abstracts. And again, really appreciate Professor Vatawala because we received at the beginning a little bit unexpected number, but then with his participation, we were able to reach this number, 22. So these extended abstracts were subjected to a double-blind review process for ensuring quality. So the reviewers did not know who were the authors did not know who were the reviewers, which is called a double-blind review in the academic process. I really need to appreciate the review panel and the members of the Scientific and Evaluation Committee, Dr. Sandhya Jayasen, Dr. Isuru Manawadu, and who are the co-secretaries as well, then Ms. Tilini Kure, as well as Ms. Amali Hennadirage, and others for providing us the maximum support, which is highly appreciated. Without their review process, we couldn't have achieved the quality. I also take an opportunity to provide a special thanks and appreciation to Ms. Sumudu Pagoda for providing us the maximum support and necessary coordination to make, as the main secretary to the research symposium, which he provided the maximum support and help to us. I would like to remark about her. Then I really appreciate the researchers for their deepest commitment and perseverance in advancement of scientific knowledge and for presenting their findings at the symposium. So without the researchers, there is no symposium. So thank you very much for your great contribution. At the technical sessions of the symposium that was held yesterday, 18 cutting-edge new knowledge and findings were shared and imparted. We thank them immensely again for their very valuable effort and contribution. After thorough independent evaluation, we have selected 4 Best Track Awards and the overall Best Research Paper Award, which will be presented shortly. I again thank Professor Lakshman Watavala, the President CMA Sri Lanka, for initiating as well as facilitating, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara, the Vice President, and the Council for initiating and facilitating this timely and noble effort to providing the necessary structure as well as the facilities on this noble cooperation between the profession as well as the academia. You have facilitated the necessary link between us. Thank you very much. Being the premier national body on management accounting in Sri Lanka, your commitment to support and facilitate advancement of scientific knowledge is really noteworthy. I sincerely wish that through the knowledge and insight shared at this national conference as well as the symposium, we could rebuild our mother nation and reclaim our status as the pearl of the Indian Ocean. That's our noble wish. Thank you very much, and let me wish you all the very best.
Thank you too, Professor Ajwad, and we appreciate that there's a lot of hard work that was done yesterday by CMA's, C-M-A-R-S 2022. Yes, that's the research. The R stands for research, of course. All right, so I guess we shall invite the chief guest in the company of Professor Watavala and Mr. Hennayaka Bandara to be up on the stage as we proceed with introducing to you the recipients of the CMA's awards.
As was mentioned, there are 4 tracks, or there were 4 tracks that were presented on, and we begin, as is proper, with track 1. The Best Presentation Award for track 1 goes to WVDVB Veragoda and KVC Aryaratna. KVC Aryaratna is unable to join us today, but the award will be accepted on behalf by Mr. Veragoda.
we are. So very good. Best Presentation Award for Track 1. We follow with the Best Presentation Award for Track 2. And that too is a shared presentation. Dr. Isuru Manamadu and K.U.M. Premakumara. Both of whom are here. There we are.
Congratulations. On now to the best presentation for track 3. The award goes to D.N. Pandithasekara and Dr. E.A.G. Sumanasiri. We will have the award collected or accepted on behalf of Dr. E.A.G. Sumanasiri as well. So representing both, we have Ms. Pandithasekara.
Best Presentation for Track 3, that was. And now we are with Track 4. The Best Presentation Award is to TMRT Tennagon, who is from Kandy and is unable to be present, but I believe a relative will be accepting it on behalf of TMRT Tennagon. The award will be duly conveyed via her to Kandy and to the presenter.
And now, while all of those were the best presentations in each track, we now look at who won the best overall presentation award encompassing all 4 tracks, and that award goes to D.N. Pandithasekara and Dr. E.A.G. Sumanasiri. Congratulations.
So as we mentioned, Dr. Sumanasiri's award will also be accepted by Ms. Pandithasekara.
So this is the best overall presentation for the CMA Research Symposium 2022.
While we have our chief guest on stage, we have some tokens of appreciation to be handed to them. So we shall invite Professor Watawala to hand over a token of appreciation to our chief guest, the Deputy High Commissioner, Acting High Commissioner for Canada, Daniel Bood.
invite also to receive a token of appreciation, Mr. A.N. Raman. Thanks also to Professor Mangala Fonseca. We'd like to invite him on stage now. Back onto the stage, Professor Roshan Ajwad, please.
He too receives a token of appreciation. We have a book, the earlier mentioned and celebrated history book. We also need to hand it over to Dr. Isru Manavadu. So may we invite Isru, please, come and accept a copy. Then we also had Mr. Javira, who received an award earlier on. We would like to invite him to accept a copy of the volume.
We'll ask that our presenters remain on stage a moment more because there are more books to be presented, and we'd like to invite our representatives from our gold sponsors, Lanka IOC, to collect a copy of the history book, a history that they are now part of.
Yes. So yes, we are doing a little catch up here and also handing over to the sponsors a copy of the same volume, which now, as we know, is a vital document. It records a series of achievements over a considerable period of time.
And we invite a representative from Sri Lanka Telecom PLC or Mobitel to join us as well, please.
Selinco Life Insurance Limited. Come, yeah. National Savings Bank thereafter. We didn't have anyone earlier on, but I don't know if they're here. And then OTR Lanka. Lanka Tiles also deserve a copy of the book, but we're not sure we have Lanka Tiles, yes. Then Siam City Cement Lanka Limited to also receive a book. Soft Logic Life. Our silver sponsors are also complete with People's Bank. Don't seem to be having anyone here. And also the print media partner. They've been supportive, namely Vijaya Newspapers Limited. Oh, we have People's Bank. That completes the presentation of the books as well. So thank you very much to the Acting High Commissioner for Canada. Thank you also Mr. Hennaka Bandara as well as President Lakshman R. Watawala.
As you would have noticed, that was all in aid of showing appreciation to the greater community that has been part of this event and many of the other events that CMA has organized and made possible. And community being a large part of the focus and many people contributing to bring together an event of this magnitude, there are many thanks due. And to share that appreciation, we would like to invite a council member of CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Ruchira Pereira, to express it in the vote of thanks.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I actually have a long list of names and events that I should mention in my vote of thanks. So without taking much of your time, let me express my sincere gratitude for various individuals and for various organizers who have made this event a true success today. So first of all, let me express my sincere gratitude to Chief Guest today, His Excellency Mr. Daniel Booth, Acting High Commissioner of Canada to Sri Lanka. Thank you, sir, for your presence, and also I must appreciate the help of CPA Canada now and also the Canadian government for the activities of CMA Sri Lanka throughout. Our guest of honor, Mr. Alan Johnson, although he was not here physically, he joined virtually. Thank you, sir, for your virtual presence and also for elaborating what the accounting profession needs to do in order to support sustainable economic and social development. We also had another presenter joining virtually, Mr. Girish Ramchandran, President of Tata Consultancy Services. Thank you, sir, once again for your keynote address explaining the role of digital technology to transform economy and businesses that are in crisis. I would also express my gratitude to President of SAFA, Mr. Hennaka Bandara, for your opening remarks, and also for past President of SAFA and also a loyal friend of CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. A.N. Raman. Thank you, sir, for being here with us and also for the opening remarks today. And also I must appreciate your sincere loyalty for CMA Sri Lanka and also for our beloved President, Professor Lakshman R. Watawala. Professor Mangala Fonseca, my guru, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for compiling CMA Sri Lanka history book in the interest of our nation from 1999 to 2022. Thank you very much for explaining the significance of this book and also for compiling this book within a short period of time to be presented today at the conference. My friend, Professor Roshan Ajwad, thank you, Ajwad, for conducting the CMA Research Symposium brilliantly and also for organizing the awards ceremony today. I wish to congratulate all the recipients of CMA Business Excellence Awards who have excelled in various capacities, and also the recipients of CMA Research Symposium Awards today. Last but not least, I take this opportunity to thank the organizing committee chairman, Professor Lakshmana Vatavala, who is also the founder president and incumbent president of CMA Sri Lanka. Thank you, sir, for your guidance and for your thought-provoking opening remarks in the morning today, explaining the role that CMA management accountants that can play in the development of our economy, which is bankrupt now. So I take this opportunity to thank other members of the organizing committee of the conference committee, various sponsors without whom we would not be having this conference today and tomorrow. Again, I wish to thank the management of Taj Samudra Hotel for the wonderful arrangements and also for all solutions for lighting and equipment. I wish to thank, last but not least, I wish to thank all the participants who are here with us, who were with us from the morning. Before I wind up the session, I invite all of you to join with us for the lunch that is served behind the seating area. And I hope all of you, some of you might join us in the evening tonight, but most of you, I hope, would join us in the technical sessions that will be happening tomorrow. So thank you very much. Wish you a very pleasant afternoon.
So with Ruchira's remarks, the formality of this morning's event comes to a conclusion. However, what do we know? We already know there's more tomorrow.
Yes, the technical sessions will be starting at 9 a.m. sharp tomorrow with an international flavor with guest speakers from around the world, as well as the expertise of those we have here in Sri Lanka as well being shared. So we have that to look forward to tomorrow, where quite a lot will be happening. But this evening, as well as was mentioned, we have the Integrated Reporting Awards.
IR Awards, is that correct? IR Awards. We have all sorts of awards that we will be focusing on today. IR being another. 6 o'clock?
Yes, 6 o'clock today. But before that, we have something else to attend to.
Oh yeah, just lunch. You're invited.
Do enjoy.